Hello, MACC Conversations listeners. We have such a special episode to share with you. We had the definitive honor of speaking with two incredible community leaders for this episode of MACC's podcast. Listen in as we have the privilege of a conversation with Elder Atum Azzahir of Cultural Wellness Center and AsaleSol Young of MACC member Housing in Action. Their story, their history, and their impact are on full display as we dive into how cultural knowledge and practices are grounded in their organizations. You'll be fascinated by the story of how AsaleSol turned to Elder Atum when they needed the wisdom and guidance of an elder. I love this episode, and you will too. Welcome, everyone, to the MACC podcast. It's Laurel Hansen from MACC with another episode of the MACC Conversations podcast, brought to you by the Metropolitan Alliance of Connected Communities. Interested in checking out more of our podcasts and nonprofit workforce resources? Visit our Workforce Hub on the MACC website or find our podcasts where you listen on Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. As our listeners know, MACC has been strategically focused on the well-being and resilience of the human services workforce. The people who do the work of our nonprofit organizations, they're very important to us and to the communities that we serve. So on today's episode, we are having a wonderful conversation with some great folks in the MACC friend circle. AsaleSol Young, Executive Director from Housing in Action, a wonderful MACC member, and Elder Atum Azzahir, the esteemed founder and leader at Cultural Wellness Center in Minneapolis. We're going to learn more about the work that they do there. We're so very grateful to have time with these two icons today on this podcast. We're going to hear from them about how they ground well-being in cultural knowledge and practices and how they've worked together to make some magic happen. Welcome, friends, to the MACC podcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, hello. Hello. I am so excited. This conversation has been a long time coming, and we've all been committed to getting together and bringing your stories and your connection and relationship and the work that you do to the MACC network. So let's jump in. I first heard about Cultural Wellness Center and the connection with the MACC network through AsaleSol when AsaleSol was at one of our summits and on a panel, I believe, and you were talking about this shared work that you were doing together. Can you tell us a little bit more about that partnership? Because I do think our network will be really interested in hearing about that. How did it begin, and what is it focused on, and what's it like working together with Cultural Wellness Center? Yeah, tell the tale, tell the story.
Absolutely. Happy and excited to tell the story. So Housing in Action began working with the Cultural Wellness Center, I want to say back in 2020. So it's been a while. And this was back when we were actually called Urban Homeworks. Mm-hmm. And Elder Atum and I have known each other since, I want to say, 2015, 13, somewhere in there. So we've known each other for quite a long time and had known each other for quite a long time before Housing in Action started intentionally coordinating and working on things with Cultural Wellness Center. But essentially, in 2020, when Urban Homeworks was starting to transition its leadership structure from my predecessor to myself as an interim executive director, it was just really essential for me. It just felt like a no-brainer to pull in one of my elders, who does intentional work to help folks understand their origin, their connection, and how they bring that forward into the work of justice and connection, community connection today. And so it was a challenging transition because I was really focused on moving what was then Urban Homeworks into a very proudly clear anti-racist organization. And I knew that to do that well and sustainably, we all had to connect with that root, that origin, that cultural origin, and start to break free of the very racialized understanding that we have in this kind of capitalist system that we're all working in, right? We're all working, operating under, right? And so I wanted, so kind of like I was saying, like it just felt really obvious to me that I shouldn't do that alone, that I should work with an elder and a partner that I trusted and that I knew would help us guide that transition with a lot of grace and care. And so, in 2020 is when, at that time, Urban Homeworks got to meet the Cultural Wellness Center and Elder Atum, which is just so sweet. It's so sweet to think about it. Yeah.
Well, I think to say how sweet it is, always makes me think about songs, how sweet it is. Yes. And so, but I think the beginning, the origin, is really in the strong connection that we have had and that existed, I would say, in your coming into this strong advocate for what is right and righteous, and that people who are activists and who have both been activists all of their life, your existence on the planet is like, I'm an activist, but those the work you do is not always coined or named in such a way that it can be also connected with healing. It's just not. I mean, activism, fighting, and the fight, and being on the front line of the fight. And I just remember from day one, that's how you and I talked about who you are and how you're going to survive the fight. And the reason that it seems so important to me to be a part of it, two big reasons. One is I grew up, as a fighter in the Mississippi Delta, grew up through the Civil Rights Movement, all those kind of things that were significant in my becoming calm in my approach to fighting, especially fighting white supremacy, fighting racism, knowing, as you've heard me say over and over again, if you don't know all of the aspects of white supremacy and racism, everything else will be confused. That's somebody else said it. I didn't coin that. But that was what I knew, is that you have to live your life. You have to know your purpose, because your purpose and your life work will constantly coincide with your building. So if you're going to build something, then you got to be able to heal something in terms of the work and the way we do work, So it was an honor for me to be almost like co-parenting at some point, because you just have been such a vital, hard-hitting person from young. So I think that you're starting with Urban Homeworks and beginning to challenge also in your vision and the establishing, and also the looking at that vision and being able to see, okay, this is the vision, and it's grounded in what might be considered right and upright and righteous, kind of values. But how do you take this and make sure that it can walk its talk? That you can actually, if you got all these beautiful values and so forth, then how do you make it play itself out with everyone, no matter who they are, where they come from, who they are, and how you work with them is not necessarily grounded in quote unquote service. It's not grounded in your being a righteous person because you're giving, but everyone, both givers and receivers, have to be in this category of being valued. And so I think that is where we began with Urban Homeworks, is that you were becoming the quote unquote interim person, interim director. And I didn't see that as interim at all because of the way people around you reacted to your work, to your thinking. AsaleSol was this person that people wondered, well, who is this? Who is this? And at the same time, I believe they were compelled to listen because
I see that. Yeah.
You see that happening.
That must feel powerful to have an elder recognize that in you at a crucial transition point, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And to what I spoke of earlier, you know, Elder and I have known each other for a long time.
Cool.
And, yeah, and so it was a huge honor to have her come and walk alongside of me in this.
Yeah. And how impactful that's been is your success has grown and your leadership has taken the organization to the next level and rebranded. And how did that co-working and that partnership show up? Was it organizational coaching, executive coaching? Was it were there practical programs? Like what was the what in the
yeah, and it grew over time.
Yeah.
And so initially it started off, frankly, as mostly executive coaching. Like I was kind of coming to Elder and speaking about what I was seeing and observing, what I was thinking about, sharing the vision. And we had decided to incorporate the leadership team of the organization at that time.
Smart.
So it started with just me. Then we moved it to the rest of the directors team. And then eventually it became the entire staff, but it was a gradual process. And I think what we both recognized, I was doing a lot of work with the board.
Yep.
Recognizing that sustainable change in an organization, sustainable transformation can't, like, we talk about how movement work really has to start from the grassroots. And sort of this meeting of the grassroots and the grass tops. And so because I recognize that you have to really start in an organizational shift, it's really hard to make a permanent transition if the board isn't on board. And so you really want to start with your board. And so I was working with Elder specifically on that piece. That's a lot of our discussions around in the executive coaching space, was just that compassionate bringing the board along. And I love that Elder talks about like the fiery fighter, because transparently, that is something that I really needed grounding in, which was the fire is what carries you forward, but it's the like care and the grace that sustains you. And that
But there wasn't a lot of language to describe how the fire would be not put out. In other words, not to not have fire was not an option. Because it was going to be fiery.
I love that.
Right, and there's no way for me not to be fiery.
That's what I mean.
That's how you get things done.
That's the truth of it. Right, yeah. But it also was really important for me to learn that concrete lesson in practice of how you welcome people in versus
100%.
just kicking people out.
Oh gosh.
Right, how you say
right
like
there.
you're invited into this.
Yeah.
And with authority, because I think that in relationship to the board, the executive coaching, and then the board being invited to participate in what would the board's governance kind of practices, how would they make decisions, how would they determine performances of both the executive director as well as the performances of the organization. So we were able to really establish, based in your principles, practices, values, that you were really bringing to the organization from the people who the organization was really grounded to help, but helping in such a way. There's a way of helping that decreases the humanity of the people who are receiving. And that was what you were saying. No, everyone who is involved, the givers, the takers, the receivers, whoever, these are all critical to the values, and the values are critical to them. And that was a difficult discussion, I think, with the board, because the board usually did not necessarily see that as they were governing and building.
Bringing that board along was probably one of the most strategic things that you did, right? Because transition times, whether an organization is doing a leadership transition or even just, like a rebrand and a revisioning and a revisiting of all of the pillars of your organization, those are risky times. And usually it's because there's a disconnect with the board, with the staff, with the leadership. So that was a very critical move, and it sounds like it's worked out well for your organization.
Absolutely. It goes from walking kind of for people or on behalf of people to walking alongside of them, and again making sure that it's understood, that sort of spiritual and emotional shift, because that's what makes it sustainable. People will always, I think, look for the easy way out, and when we understand, to be cliche, frankly, when we understand that our struggles are tied up with each other, we can move through them more efficiently together.
My ears perked up when, did you say grassroots and grass tops?
I did,
That's a new turn of the phrase for me.
Okay.
I love it.
Say more.
I love it. Well, we've all heard about the grassroots, where it all starts, but I'm not sure I've heard it referred to as the grass tops, and that seems like a lovely statement.
Yeah, and it's not one that's from me.
Oh, okay.
No, I did not coin that. My predecessor actually used to talk a lot about grassroots and grass tops, and it really stuck with me.
It's going to stick with me now too.
How you do that work.
I think our listeners as well. So you shared a little bit about how the influence that Elder Atum and the Cultural Wellness Center have had on your organizational development at Housing in Action, but there's so much more to the Cultural Wellness Center, and you already even teased a little bit about some of the other things that you do. So maybe I'll just take a break to learn a little bit more about Cultural Wellness Center. You're a founder, and I know the organization is celebrating 30 years.
30 years in October.
What a gift to the community. Congratulations. Tell us what is your purpose at Cultural Wellness? What do you, it's in your heart. What do you live for?
I think sometimes the being quote unquote founder becomes individualized. So I just need to always start with being founder is a deep honor, and it's like being author of a book when you write about your life. There are many authors in this book, where there are many people who were a part of the organization, Cultural Wellness, as an organization coming into existence. I think the one thing that is important is that I was born and raised in Mississippi, and there I think is where the learning for me that is now a part of Cultural Wellness was based in the questions that I had as a young person that had to do with what makes my family, who in my opinion is just brilliant, the best, the most powerful, everything that they did, without the assistance of many systems that existed at that time. But remember, that was Jim Crow and all of those kind of evil kind of principles and practices were in full existence. So for me to grow up in that environment and see in my family, especially my father, to see in him the capacity to be kind and generous and to look the other way and to sing songs and do those things that were happiness based, And then my mother, who was a pistol packing, always referred to as a crazy woman, because she just was not going to give in to death as a reason. Somebody threatening her to kill her was not going to be the reason that she was going to stop. So there was always someone having to look out after her so that she would not get us all in what they call trouble. Looking at those two things, I was able to see, because I am one of two children, the youngest, and also I think one who was welcome. They were happy that I came into existence. So that meant that everyone seemed to really take a lot of strong interest in my being able to live in such a way that I didn't feel like I had to prove myself. But I had to study how was it that they were teaching me that, and they were under this awful kind of thing they live under. So that's what I wanted to study, and the Cultural Wellness Center is my dedication to that. The Cultural Wellness Center is a memorial for me for this idea that we are, as a people of African descent, Black people, really, we are grounded in something where it's survival, resiliency, and what people call turning the other cheek. We have such capacity for that. And I think in many, many cases, our survival has depended on that. But who institutionalizes that teaching? So for me, it was, I have to build an institution, an organization that has classes in how to take care of yourself, protect yourself, and be yourself, in spite of the fact that you may have no money and may not have what appears to be any other resources. That's what the cultural wellness approach is about. We dedicated that to people of African descent being able to study that process because, of course, remember now, the study of culture from that point of view is no longer available as it was. Black history right now is really it's a way of resisting. Teaching Black history is a force of resistance.
Absolutely.
So in my work, I felt like teaching Black culture is a resistance to what exists now, so that our people can be able to come to the table. We may come to the table for cash, but we have a full supply of culture and connections. And that's what we want to build on. And that's what the Cultural Wellness Center does. And that plays out in this relationship that we have with you all at who you are and who you have brought around the organization. So we do for other organizations, well, and people is really what we want to do. We want to develop peoplehood. We want to develop humanity, and the sense of I am, as they have said, I am somebody, and we want that to be at the course of the courses that we teach, the practices that we hold, the consulting that we do. We want you to be able to say, I am who I am, and no one else gets to be a part of that decision making. That decision is not in the hands of anyone else, any other culture, any other group, any other person. And that's what we do.
I love it. Right on. It sounds very unique what you do. I can't imagine there's another organization that's just like you. Like you've built this around your life, your origin story, and your community has responded to it. You're busier than ever.
Yes, we are. And
I've seen this course catalog, and it's pretty amazing, all the programs, and I mean, what a gift.
Yeah, it is. We are very, very fortunate, blessed, and we are owned by many, many people. On any given day, you know, we are called into work with someone on some situation that no one else can or know how to. So there is a certain kind of know-how that I think comes from the knowledge of self. Knowing yourself provides us with a kind of strong capacity for empathy and for being able to love at a level. I mean, I've become really clear that loving is not racialized, and that if there is no loving, it doesn't necessarily mean it's about race. It's about hatred, and it's about the kind of self-absorption and the kind of individualism. We have a theory of sickness that came from our many, many, many questions that's called individualism, loss of culture, and loss of community will and does make you sick.
Call it out, right?
That's, you call it out.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then what do? The only problem we're solving is individualism, loss of culture, and loss of community make you sick. That's the only problem we're solving. And many times that problem solving turns into a solution. It's not
Right.
It's not solving a problem. We are not solving a problem for others, but people in the process of thinking about who am I connected to, what do I do, how do I do it, myself turns into the solution for their housing, for the lack of connection to other people, for the lack of support from other people.
Yeah. That sort of mature and experienced point of view, I think, is so critical to the work that you've done and what you've established. And it's a long road, and it takes a lot of, it's a journey to get to that point of view, right? You don't start out with that point of view.
Yeah.
So for your, the people who are involved in your organization, for them to be able to learn from you in that way, it seems really vital.
I think so. You all know what I'm talking about from experience, correct? So,
yeah. So for us, taking that, what's also powerful is that when I met Elder, I was looking for support in understanding how to integrate this understanding of culture and beauty, like just literally the things that Elder just said, I don't need to repeat, but an understanding of how to integrate clarity around culture and the power of cultural connection into systems, right? And so, obviously, I'm born generations after Elder, so my personal experience is very different, but I will say that what I was blessed with in my upbringing is that I was born into a family that decided it was really important for me to understand where I came from, who I was, like what our biological origins were, and what our social, sort of prescribed social placement or location was. And I had that growing up, and I it sounds like very similar to you, Elder. I just grasped onto it, and I was like, I want to understand the depth and the nuance of this. And so,
and the question is, why am I like this? It's not a horrible thing for me to be adamant about who I am, know who I am,
exactly,
fight for who I am, explain to nobody who I am.
Exactly.
That is something that I immediately saw in our conversation when I would be able to say, okay, fine, that's who you are. So now where we're going to go.
Exactly. And in my upbringing, it was like I learned at a young age that was rare.
Yes.
In identities, the nuance of my identity, the intersections was very rare in my identity. And I've been blessed along my journey. But this was the first time that I, with supporters and mentors, but this was the first time I encountered, again, an organization structured, created by an elder that I just, similar to what you said, it's like you just feel the love in the holding, and so you trust, right? It's like very relational. But it allowed me to kind of come in very vulnerably and talk about my vision and actually do the work of understanding how do you infuse this cultural grounding that I believe helps us to sustain the work of social justice.
Yep.
How do you infuse that into an organization and systematize it, which is a very challenging thing to do. And it's something that we were able to shape together in our work together, and we were able to shape every time we brought staff to the table. It helped to strengthen it. Starting with, again, we started with our one-on where we we reconnected in one-on-one space. And so that I had that, like, okay, I'm stepping in, I'm taking on this big thing. I'm a little nervous about it. But I was regrounded by an elder that I know loves me and cares about me. That's like, yep, and take up your space. Right? So, like, that's kind of where we're starting. It's like that grounding. And it's like, okay, as you get comfortable taking up your space, like, let's start to bring people into this so they are comfortable taking up their space. And there's a collective consciousness around what is it we're building and doing. How are we going to do things differently? How are we going to hold each other accountable to a connected way of doing the work, kind of rooted in the hardcore way of doing the work?
Yes.
And so from myself to the whole leadership team to the entire staff, the things that we're able to talk about as a staff community, the things we're able to develop and understand, there's a shared consciousness. So what is powerful, and I think what's really important, is that we are all coming from a different social location. So it's not just about, obviously, not just about race. It's not just about class, gender, any of these sort of prescribed social identities. Because once you get to that clarity, you understand that your work is to understand you.
But the thing that I remember is that you come into an environment that forces you to hold on to a title based in race, class, socioeconomic, gender, all the different. When you walk into, even in the nonprofit world, you come in with amazing ideas, and you're forced in the environment itself to stand up in such a way that you're not going to take nothing from anybody. You're not going to let somebody put you in a position of having to explain yourself. The transformation of that fight into everyone around this table is important and is family. You just said it. The team, the staff, family. The staff, the people in the staff who are from various different, once again, social locations, but racialized social locations. Absolutely. Those things and those people who come in are now a part of a family. So if that person is a marketing person, is a housing developer, is a fundraiser, is a board chair, everyone in that circle know that things are going to be hard, and we're not going to fight each other over it. So we're not going to fight each other over who has more quote unquote power.
Let's talk in just the last couple minutes we have together. Let's talk about those teams. And I just want to touch on and just maybe hear a little bit from AsaleSol about how you approach workforce well-being at Housing in Action. And then wrap it up, maybe, Elder Atum, you could talk a little bit about that idea of wellness and how it goes beyond physical health, and in your community, how you approach that.
Yeah, so I think for us, it really even starts with our new way of hiring and onboarding folks, recognizing that we are asking you to adapt to a new way of working and being and understanding the work and the approach. And so really it gets down to that systemization. So when you are coming from a sort of heart-centered space, you're really thinking about, you're able to take a really critical look at why in nonprofit do you have high turnover? Why in nonprofit do you have a lot of burnout? Why are people, sometimes they come in, they're really kind of down, and like, what is creating those dynamics?
And we accept it.
We do accept it. Thank you. We do accept it. What is creating that tension where people come into a space that they're so dedicated and passionate about, but they're not experiencing joy? And so the reality that I think is important is that, like, I never tried to take on the responsibility for the world, right? Like, I never tried to say, like, listen, the world ain't gonna be rough sometimes, and that the experiences of people that are sort of under the boot of the housing system aren't gonna be tragic sometimes, because they are. but rather the responsibility is in how do we see the hard work happening through that and persisting through that, and ensure that people have access to the resources that they need. Our partnership with MACC has helped us with that, making sure that people have access to quick phone calls if they need a mental health counselor. They can call quickly. We have a very generous time off policy that includes the understanding of mental health days, of just taking time for self. We provide a lot of shared staffing time. So part of when we do our sort of stay surveys, and we're just kind of checking in with staff about how things are going and feeling, when we get feedback, one of the things that was a surprise to me, but a learning, was like, okay, we're offering staff a lot of individual time off, but folks were saying, but sometimes because of the systems that we operate under, I feel guilty for taking time off by myself, knowing my team still has a ton of work to do. So that was like, what we heard from that was a balance of office closure days where everybody is off, and you still have your independent
the flexibility,
because that's important. But
Yeah.
we're hearing, don't get rid of those shared days, because that makes us truly feel like we can disconnect.
That's I think a really great standard to set, because and setting those examples right from the leadership level is you're investing in the culture of your organization that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We also like to do things like, so even in the ongoing, so we do have an amazing time off policy, and part of that is that we give everybody sabbatical time. So we look at, again, the history of turnover, just in nonprofits in general, small organizations like ours in general, and the turnover rates are pretty high. And so we're like, okay, we want to honor when people want to stay, and we want to give them a little breath. So it's like, oh, wow, like you're charging through, here's a breath, and let's re-up, let's go.
I know I'm going to want to have a follow-up conversation with you about sabbaticals, because everyone talks about it and nobody's figured it out. So
yeah. It's always a learning, but I think the key is that knowing what it is that's at the root of the offering and standing by that. And so we offer all of our staff, it started off with leadership level, and that was kind of an experiment.
Yeah.
And how the role position and how much time you've been at the org, and now we offer it to everybody. Fantastic. Which I am really proud of.
Yeah. Our network's going to want to learn from you about what that whole process of figuring it out.
Yeah, fair.
So yeah.
But in between all of that is our sessions with the Cultural Wellness Center, which our team has given. Part of that feedback is we love going to the Cultural Wellness Center. We love having these conversations. We love the food. They always feed us.
That must feel good to hear.
So of course, our
food is care.
In nonprofit, we love free food
100%.
and good food and stuff, and so it feels really comforting. We also have just team lunchtime where we're just spending time together. It's putting work aside. We have what we call fun days. It's rotated who leads.
Not fun days.
Who chooses?
Oh my gosh,
day.
Fun! I love it.
I know, and that's it's once a quarter. But any staff person can partner with another staff person and basically say, okay, we're gonna go play pickleball, or we're gonna have an outside meal.
Healthy!
Or,
that's so healthy.
We're just kind of spending community time together. We also do retreats. We celebrate things, of course, like people's birthdays and anniversaries, but we really try to lean hard into celebration, because again, in nonprofit and in the urgency of white supremacy, it's easy for us to dwell on the negative and the hard and never look up and say, we did that. We did a thing.
Yeah.
We're going to pause and celebrate.
Yeah. You're here to that. I think we started this conversation talking about joy. And so to be able to hear some of the things that are actually happening that are joyful, it's so wonderful. My last question for Elder Atum is to feed off of that. How in your opinion, how is health and wellness unique within diverse communities? Because that, I think, is something that your organization says it is, right?
Yes.
Can you say more?
Well, let me first say that you are such a AsaleSol in the entire family. Such great examples of how you walk your talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the conversations, the dialogues that we were fortunate to be have with you all for monthly for a couple of years, when there was something that was bothering, we made it, which is what we do. We made it really, really clear and critical that one of the things we do is memory healing. And so it's an offering that we have that is culturally based in that when people come to our sessions, we have to go back and have them track in their memory what was it that caused me to be upset with one of my colleagues? What was it that made me feel guilty when I took some time off? What is the environment at our organization that causes us to feel like we hate getting up in the Monday to go to work? So those are the practices that we implement through cultural wellness.
Mhm.
Cultural wellness is a field of study, a frame of mind, and a way of being and thinking that is culturally based. And ancient teachings and those uh, old cultures, indigenous cultures, continue to know what work really is. So, fulfilling my purpose and understanding that work is about purpose and living and being and doing that which we have been called on the planet to do. And so we try our best to live according to a healing of the memory and kind of what we have been, I believe, given the honor and privilege to do is the opening of the mouth. You get to speak. You do not have to be silent about the internal strife and struggle that's going on. So we have people, the Cultural Wellness Center team, staff team right now, consists of people who have been with the Cultural Wellness Center for 28 and 29 years. People who have been 20 years. So we haven't had a lot of turnover.
Mm-hmm.
And the lack of turnover, which is changing now, but the lack of turnover is because people come to the center to understand how to heal the memory that has caused them to be struggling in the first place. They come to speak to an elder. They come to participate in a class. And you come and participate in the class, and the next thing you know, you are the director of something. And you come to know that you're the griot of something. You come to learn that you are the kind of conduit. And so we are very, very deeply grateful for the fact that people who work in cultural wellness are also then teachers of how to be well by living according to who you are and what your being and becoming your grounding is. And we live according to a philosophy that says we are being and becoming. So I think at this point in time, we want very much for our team of members, teachers, and students, we want every single person to come as a faculty member. And we see ourselves as a cultural wellness university. And at the core of the teaching is the capacity to unite with people, human beings, with the cosmos, with the planet. And that sounds like it's totally impossible, but it is not, because we see it happening right before our eyes. We have personnel policies, we have time off, we have vacation time, and we really also have the kind of flexibility that if you get up in the morning and today is not the day for you to interact with other people, but stay in bed and cover your head, then you do that. Because the rest of us may also be in that. If you come in void of capacity to interact and intersect and interconnect, it's going to be a hard day for everybody involved.
Well, that's the truth.
So that's what we do. We try to keep ourselves conscious of our consciousness and of ourselves. We teach it, we live it, And at this point in time, we're having to re-examine it
Mhm.
because, once again, the generation who comes behind us in the Cultural Wellness Center do not come from living and being and trying to memorialize their healing and their healing of the memory in particular. So history for us is not history, but heritage, health, and continuity.
Oh, fantastic. I think that's a powerful way to wrap up the conversation. And it's just really been a blessing to finally have time with both of you, and appreciation and gratefulness.
It's a long time coming, and we're
Listeners, find out more about our guests today, Housing in Action, and the great work that they do, and Cultural Wellness Center. I've had the good fortune of visiting your headquarters in South Minneapolis, and I understand from you, you're also part owner of Midtown Global Market.
Yes, and that's
which is a little unknown tidbit about your organization. Like, let's not hide that really cool fact. So,
well, I just want to say that Neighborhood Development Center is the other owner, and Neighborhood Development Center is well known for its community development work. And I think that it's not very well known that cultural development, standing alongside community development, is a really good fit. And so we intend now to really begin to show our ownership with Neighborhood Development Center, and that people will be able to come into the Midtown Global Market after all that we have been through, market, COVID, all the things that have challenged us, that we are still there, we're still alive, and we're going to even thrive to a better place in the coming
what a great
weeks and months.
Community center in and of itself.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's been an amazing conversation. We learned so much from both of you. Thank you, AsaleSol Young and Elder Atum Azzahir, for your time and conversation with the MACC Network. So valuable. I know our listeners heard a lot today that they can carry forward. Soak it in. We'll be sharing it out soon with our network. And also, thanks to our sponsors for the Workforce Podcast that includes Ameriprise. We all have supporters and appreciate their support. And of course, we appreciate our listeners too. Thanks for tuning in, and don't miss our monthly podcast downloads. Make sure you follow MACC Conversations on Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. We have great chats each month with other MACC members and community friends. And if you have an idea for a guest, please reach out to me. Thank you. Have a great day and be well. Goodbye.